Things that make you go, July 1997, Bellevue, Washington. When I addressed a women's studies class comprised of a few guys and about 30 young white women at the University of Washington, the angriest attacks came from members of the class who were enraged that on my Backlash website we sometimes stooped to the same rhetorical tactics that feminists use. Oh no. Years ago, racists had a saying, the only good engine is a dead engine. Now, feminists have theirs. The only men who are right are the men who agree they are wrong. Decades ago, feminists demanded that men listen. So men listened, and listened, and listened, until finally, after decades of listening, some of us began to ask if maybe we had done nothing but listen long enough, and that the time had come for men to do some of the talking and women to do some of the listening. Feminists, of course, claimed we were sexist for wanting to talk. That was almost 20 years ago, and they're still saying men have to listen. That's because they're hate mongers who only care about power. One-on-one or to small groups, feminist leaders are very good about admitting they have been mistaken about some things, and that maybe they need to change, but most of it is for show. Few of them change their tactics as the result of criticism, unless it's to become more covert. Do women prefer men who have the roving eye because such men present a challenge? Because women are so competitive? It is men's way to get ahead by being, or appearing to be, a source of solutions. Is it women's way to be, or appear to be, a source of problems? Recently, I told a woman how a company she works for and enthusiastically supports had discriminated against a man there on the basis of his sex. Her response was typical of what we have come to expect from the liberated, morally superior white American women today. "I'm sorry I brought it up," she said. "Sticks and stones may break my bones. But if I'm a woman, only words can all but kill me, for which I must charge you with sexual harassment, assault, rape, or anything else that feminists can dream up." So there. Next time a woman tells you men have it better than women do, ask her, when was the last time you were a man? When she says never or mutters something inane, say, then how do you know? If an uninformed or privileged male says, as a man, I can say that men have it better, ask him, when was the last time you were a woman? To both, note that we can make absolute statements about our subjective experiences, but we can't generalize from them without the support of objectively verifiable data. And the objective facts do not support the contention that men, at least American and Canadian men, have it better than women. And when they cite feminist statistics, tell them you don't accept statistics from man-hating sources. That'll rile them up. Feminist extremists want a backlash the way General Patton wanted war with Russia, and they want rapists the way he wanted the Nazis. There is a difference between a woman who goes onto welfare after her husband abandons her with the kids, and a woman who carouses around and then expects society to subsidize her irresponsibility. During the 1970s, second-wave feminists were quite outspoken in their belief that marriage should be replaced by welfare, for women, not men. Feminists call men who cite statistics from official sources, back then, not now, to prove women are better off than they are, whiners. So what does that make women who complain they are worse off than men? Why is it that when a 13-year-old girl wants an abortion, she's adult enough to do so without her parents' consent, and women who do drugs while pregnant have the right not to be punished for their irresponsibility? But when an adult woman has sex while under the influence of alcohol, suddenly she's neither old enough nor responsible enough to be held accountable for her own decisions? Feminists like to harangue men's unwillingness to admit mistakes, but let someone point out how a woman made a mistake and suddenly you're blaming the victim. Asking women to admit the things that, upon reflection, they would have done differently is not the same thing as blaming the victim. If we never admit our mistakes, we can never learn from them. Which, with feminism, goes hand in hand. Feminists can't learn from their mistakes unless it's on how to change laws in order to penalize men more and prop up women even more. Women's uncompensated relationship maintenance work in the home as mother and wife is called undervalued, while men's uncompensated relationship sales work is called sexual harassment. The YWCA has begun an annual Week Without Violence campaign. A fine idea. How about a related program titled Week Without Blame, to focus on all perpetrators rather than ignoring the violence women do? In the wake of welfare reform, many are worried about the loss of a safety net for women and children. But who cares about a safety net for men and children? Many civic and political organizations call on women and men to work to further the welfare of men and women? No, just women. This is equality? Decades ago, society winked at the young man who needed to sow his wild oats and frowned at the young woman whom he sowed. Now, society hates the young rapist who sows his wild oats, but applauds the liberated young woman who seeks her own pleasure with the rapist. Is replacing one double standard with another progress? Feminists say men who disapprove of teenage girls having sex are sexist. But then, when these girls get pregnant by boys who are too young to behave responsibly, they blame the boys. Remember, it takes two to tango. Feminists complain the job market doesn't respect women who take time off to raise children, yet they ignore that the market is even less forgiving of men who take time off for any reason. When a woman is depressed, all men are to blame and she needs drugs and sympathy. But when a man is depressed, well, he's just a loser. When a husband and wife do things around the house, she says, he helps. When he builds a new garage, she says, we built a new garage. Men tend to see women as bed warmers. Women tend to see men as bed builders. Feminists encourage women to resent the way men tend to see them. Well, maybe it's time for men to resent the way women tend to see us. For the Backlash at Backlash.com, my name is Rod Van Mecklin.